And Stallone's like, okay, well, whatever. And then like some guy's like, you hawk.
That's a
You know,
great Stallone you just did. I was not. You're Stallone and you're Arnold. Just kill me.
And he's like, "Are you Hawk?" And he wants to arm wrestle. They're betting on it. The whole diner. Apparently, you can just arm wrestle in diners.
Yeah, they set it up. Like all of a sudden, the Thunderdome appeared.
Maybe it's like glory holes, right? Like there's like people know what diners and restrooms have glory holes. Like I know if I go to this diner, I can arm wrestle. Maybe it's like that, right? Like it's, we didn't have the internet, so it's written on bathroom walls. Arm wrestling at Shirley's, 67. Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
Kyle.
That is Kyle. Kyle, we're back for episode number 66.
Damn it.
The Movie Dads podcast. Should have done a Star Wars movie.
Math is hard.
Order 66, but we didn't.
We could have.
Episode.
Order 66.
Do it. Do it. Episode number.
No, you will die. Sorry.
30 seconds in and the show's off the rails.
Here we are.
Episode 66 of the Movie Dads podcast. The 1987 American sports drama, Over the Top. It's a new segment that we're introducing this week in honor of episode 66. We've done this a few times where we've watched this movie, or we watched a movie that we really enjoyed as a child or as our teenage selves that maybe we haven't watched in a while, and we've gone back and maybe it didn't age quite. We're like,
wait, is this the same
fine
movie?
Wine. But we're gonna call this Nostalgia Goggles.
Yeah, I like that.
Is it good?
Yeah. Question?
Maybe not. Is it as good as we remembered?
Yeah. That movie was good.
Was it? Anyway, Nostalgia Goggles for Over the Top. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Make sure you click that bell so you get notifications on when new episodes come out, which are on Wednesdays. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can also find us on many different podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But we're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. Man, things are busy. We've got wrestling. We've got basketball. I will say this week we're ramping up for musical. Reagan's junior high, middle school musical is this weekend. Usually it's in the spring, and they, like the last couple of years, they did like Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast. This year they're doing seasonal. They're doing Elf, the musical.
Oh, nice.
So it's this weekend. So Reagan plays I think she's like Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Oh,
in it.
Amazing.
She's like mall cop with the mall Santa. So that's her role in the musical this year. So dress rehearsals Friday, and then she's got 2 performances Saturday, 2 performances on Sunday. I'm only going to 1. I got lucky there. I don't have to go see it 4 times. But we got like grandparents coming into town and stuff, so we've got them all separated. We got tickets, so somebody's going to every show at least. So
outstanding.
That's positive.
Love that.
Dez and I are jacked because we only have to go to 1, and it's on Sunday afternoon. So,
and you both like quietly have that moment of like, thank God, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
nice. Love that. Our house, nothing too crazy. We've been slowly putting up Christmas stuff because obviously that's what you do this time of year before Thanksgiving. Which it's kind of embarrassing. My basement has Christmas trees and stuff up. I got them out of the closet. I just haven't done anything with them. So it's a hot mess down here. But really nothing really crazy going on this week. Like we've got soccer per usual. Our youngest had hand, foot, and mouth disease, which is like it's this. God, I feel like every time we have an episode, we're talking about somebody's sick. But daycare is a cesspool, and they bring home these disgusting things. Luckily, it's only something that really the baby could get, but it's been like 4 nights of no sleep. So I'm just keeping all of my stress right here in the bags under my eyes where I haven't slept. But yeah, nothing crazy. Parker has his birthday party coming up this weekend. So
Awesome.
excited for that. He's turning 5, which I have realized that I have been calling him 5 for like 9 months. So like just it's like the second a birthday is gone, I'm just immediately calling them the next age a couple months into it. So
Sure.
so when they were like his 5th birthday, I'm like, that's not right. It's got to be his 6th. I'm like, nope, I'm an idiot. So also going
You're
through
an idiot.
I'm an idiot. You're an idiot. Oh, classic. We're at that time of year. Can't wait to watch that movie. We already have. Parker explaining to us, we ask, who do you want to invite to your birthday party? It's just like, it's a comical minute of what are you even saying when he tries to explain to us the names of kids in his class at daycare. Like, he doesn't remember them, but then like he half remembers them. And then by the time we finally got all the names, it sounds like, have you ever seen like those kind of memes or posts about like where all the white girls are in matching like vests and fall like Han Solo
Boots,
outfits, pumpkin spice lattes, and they all have
basic
like
bees.
they all have like the most like crazy names for their kids. That going through the list of Parker's advice, I'm like, all I'd say at the end is just like, oh my god, white people. So but that'll be fun. I'm excited for that. It'll be a good time. But yeah, anyways, other than that, I think that lets us jump into
Let's do it.
My most excited segment of the pod. This is our 6 to midnight. This is the section of the show where we talk about the things that get us up in the morning. This week for nerd stuff, like what are we excited about? What are we juiced about? What are we playing game wise? What new trailers dropped? What new comic book released? So, had some cool things kind of drop this week. I think I took the lead last time, so I'll let you take kind of the first one if you want to jump on right away and just.
I would love to. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually a teaser trailer that dropped today. You sent it to me, and that was the first time I'd seen it. I was tied up at work doing some house cleaning. Let's just put it that way. But I was in a store that had no service, and there's some people that don't have jobs anymore. Anyway, so I come out of the store. I don't have service in this building. And, right before Christmas. Merry Christmas. You're on the point. My God. Anyway, I come out and I don't have service. And I get all my text messages at once when I'm in the store for like 3 hours, right? So I walk out and I see you had sent me this trailer. And I was like, well, that's the first thing I'm going to look at. Live action, How to Train Your Dragon. We've talked about it before on this podcast when they announced it, because it's like the same writer-director that did the animated version that's doing this one. And like Gerard Butler's playing Stoic. He did the voice and now he's actually playing him. And a lot of the characters, they're doing that way. So we get a teaser and oh my gosh, it looks perfect. Now, first off, I'm one of those people that like with all these Disney like live action remakes, some of them I'm like, cool, I like it. I like what they're doing. I'm here for it. And some of them I'm like, why? Why are you doing it? So there was a lot of commentary I saw on the internet already today that's like, why are they doing this? Like, it's such a good movie. Why are they doing it? And it's like, yeah, but this is such a cool universe and cool world. I'm totally on board to see it again. And the teaser is perfect. Like the dragons, Toothless looks exactly the same. Like, I am on board. All the other dragons they show for just a real quick, brief glimpse, they look the same. I'm on board 100%. Let's go. Sign me up. June 13th, I'll be there. Take my money for the live action How to Train Your Dragon. And of course, the teaser ends with the music, right? The test drive.
Hits you right in the heart.
Oh, it's perfect.
I thought it looked great too. I feel like it's pretty shot for shot
Almost.
with
There's a
the
couple. I saw a
original
couple
movie.
like comparisons where they had them side by side, and it's subtle differences, but it's pretty dang
Yeah.
close. Yeah.
Which I like. I think some people would be like, why would you make this if you're going to just basically make it shot for shot? But I think this is a property that I'm on board for that. So,
Right.
like, even their costumes were like all fucking like spot on. So,
Yes. And if it's something that's as great as How to Train Your Dragon, like,
yeah,
why
don't change
change it?
it.
Don't change it. Yeah, don't change it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Some of those DC animated movies could take a note from that of like, if you're making a good story, just, I don't know, do the story that's
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah. Take it.
Nice,
Roll with
nice.
it.
Love that. I saw that and was excited. The second the music kicked on at the end, I was like, oh yeah, let's go. Speaking of animated, just because I weekly now have to get a Batman thing in, we got some Batman news yesterday.
And I was actually thinking yesterday, I was like, what's he going to talk about? There's no Batman news. And then all of a sudden, Batman news. And I was like, you've
It
got to
came
be
out of
kidding me.
nowhere. I don't purposely do it. It
I
just
know.
works out like that.
I know.
There's a new, and I'm a big fan of the Batman animated movies that have come out, like Under the Red Hood, Dark Knight Returns, The Long Halloween. All those movies I think they're great. And one of the more popular stories, comic book stories of all time, Batman Knightfall, they just announced yesterday. It's like all of a sudden all this news came out at the same time, but it's like it's already in development. It's like we just didn't know about it until right now. So this Batman movie is coming out in 2025. It's animated. I think there's 2 parts or 3 parts. And Batman Nightfall is a story where Bane breaks Batman's back. So I think that'll be great. They've already got the director. They've already got, I think, Bane casted. They haven't said who Batman is, but I thought that was cool. Give me another Batman animated movie. The Crisis on Infinite Earths movies were too hard to follow.
They were mid.
They're just all over the place. So
one thing I thought was odd too is because kind of announced early on in the day yesterday about the Nightfall, and then by like the end of the day it was like, oh, we've got some voice actors, and it's like, how is that? And it's Pablo Schreiber and Anson Mount were, and I don't think it said who was playing who, but
yeah, they just announced that they're like in it or part of it,
and that it will be a trilogy. But yeah, it's kind of interesting too, and they're both pretty talented actors. Pablo Schreiber was Master Chief, but we won't talk about that. But anyway, I wondered if too, like, I wonder if they're going to try and do it. So like, is the voice actor going to be, because they're making a Bane movie, right? So I almost wonder, like, maybe they're going to Good. Maybe.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great.
Right.
You're right though. The way that the information came out, it was like word vomit. Like,
yeah, it was like, oh,
there's a Batman movie. There's a new animated Batman movie. Also, these guys are already a part of it, and this is the director, and this is when it drops. It was like, wait, back up a little bit. So,
what? Too much.
But really, like, my main nerd, like 6 to midnight this week has been totally caught off guard, out of surprise. The kids and I were home. The baby, like I said, has been sick. So he was up every freaking hour on the hour for every single night. So like Sunday morning at like 5 a.m. he gets up. So I go downstairs with him, and the boys get up too, because the second they see that another human soul is up, they immediately have to be awake as well. And they go get on their tablets. They're freaking monsters. But I woke up and there was a movie on, and it was like the last 10 minutes of the movie, last 20 minutes of the movie. And it like sucked me in. And I immediately started it over. It's like, I have to watch this from the start. So there's a movie that came out this year called Transformers 1. And it was marketed as a kids movie. And basically it was marketed as like an origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron as their like best friends back on Cybertron. And a lot of people who love the Transformers world were like not into it. They thought the trailer didn't make it look good, didn't make it look interesting. I think I specifically remember you as a Transformer nerd who grew up with the original cartoon saying like, I'm not even going to touch that. Like, I want nothing to do with it.
I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to see it. It looks stupid. It looks like it's just a bunch of dumbass jokes.
Yes.
Listen, you don't even have Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want
they
anything
did.
to do with
Yes. Doesn't have doesn't have Optimus Prime. They've got Chris Hemsworth, so Thor is Optimus Prime. This is the best Transformers movie ever made. Period. It's
not a huge high bar, but
this is true. There's some good. I know Michael Bay.
No.
His
1 and 3 are okay.
One is really good. I loved one.
It's okay.
And I really liked one. This is the best Transformers movie ever made, period. The trailer, the marketing did not do it justice. This is, which luckily there's kind of a cult following that, like, right when the movie was coming out, as I was going back and doing research, like, there were fans that had seen it or critics had seen it. It was like, this is not what you think it is. Like, you need to go see this movie.
And the reviews were great. I mean, it was like a 90% or 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, critics loved this movie when it came out. Yeah. But the marketing was dog crap. Like, straight up terrible.
All the people that love Transformers are like, that's not, don't want anything to do with that. Turns out it is not really a kids movie. Now, kids can watch it. It can work for everyone, but the story was incredible. It was such a badass, like, intricately told just origin of two characters and how that one is the good guy and one is the bad guy at some point, are mortal enemies. And it's like X-Men First Class type, Magneto, Professor X, best friends wanting the same end goal, but going on very different paths to get there. It is so good. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but you have to watch it. It is, right now, I was looking back, it's like, I think this might be my favorite movie of 2024 right now. It's kind of like Godzilla -1. Came out of nowhere. Don't roll your eyes. Watch the movie and you will probably agree with me.
I was more of a side eye because I was like, well, Dune Part 2 did come out this year.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That was like right when the year started, so it's hard to remember that. So yeah, that's a good point. But this is this year's Godzilla -1 to me. Okay. Came out of nowhere and is so good. I've watched it 3 times since seeing it the first time. It is immediately in our nerd rotation in our house, and I think will be one of like my favorite kind of nerd movies moving forward. It's just so good. It does everything justice for like the original 80s cartoon. Like, there's so much stuff in there that you as a Transformer nerd will nerd out about.
I'm probably gonna watch it when this is over and I'm editing tonight. I will probably watch it.
Watch it. I'm telling you, you will enjoy it. You will enjoy it. So it's called Transformers 1 and it's free on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus, which not a lot of people have, but we do.
Yeah. I have it. So
I mean, there's good stuff on there. It's free. Go watch it. It was so good.
Or you pay the $6 subscription for Paramount Plus.
And Chris Hemsworth, like, I thought that it was going to be hard watching the movie because I'm like, this doesn't sound like Optimus Prime.
Right.
Actually, you don't even think about that. And then at one point, obviously, there's like a growth in character and evolution up to these people in these movies. Mm-hmm. Like, towards the end, I'm like, holy shit, he sounds fucking exactly like Optimus Prime.
I'm sure they did a little work there. And
I think that's right. You could tell Hemsworth was messing with his voice a little bit towards the end. But anyways, it was so good. Go watch it. What else do you
got? So I went and saw a movie. I took Des Friday after school. I put it off long enough. We went and saw Venom: Last Dance. I mean, we talked about, we almost did an episode on it, but it was, during the pneumonia pandemic, whatever that I had. Like Venom is one of my favorite, like he's one of my favorite Marvel characters. Like it's Wolverine and Venom and Spider-Man. And like, I mean, that they're at the top. Like he's one of my favorite characters. I've loved Venom since he became a character. Like I had Venom books when I was a kid. And now I have a lot of Venom books. Anyway, I think I texted you as soon as I got out of it. And I said, if I didn't love Venom and I didn't love Tom Hardy, I would hate this movie. Like I would loathe it. It's dumb. It's poorly written. The last half hour is okay because there's tons of action and a bunch of fighting, and that's cool. But like everything leading up to it is just irritatingly mediocre. And like, it's one of those things like, I remember when the Iron Man 3 came out and a lot of people had issues with Iron Man 3 because he's barely Iron Man in it until the end.
Yeah. Yes.
Same. Like that's a big issue with this movie. And like, it's just dumb. And I mean, don't go see it. Like I know a lot of people already have. It's not as bad as the second one. I thought the second one was rubbish. But it's like, just scrap the whole thing. I hope it is The Last Dance. And I hope we get a Spider-Man Venom because we haven't gotten that yet. We've got Topher Grace is the closest thing we've had, and that's so bad because it was actually a Spider-Man version of Venom.
Dude, and look at Topher getting 2 episodes in a row. Dude's getting some screen time here.
Yeah, and he's still the worst casting choice ever in history. But
I think he's a good choice for a Mormon.
He was. Yeah, he was. But just like it's disappointing. It was like The Flash. Like, if my Flash wouldn't have had Michael Keaton as Batman in it, it would have felt the same way, right? Like it's the same thing. But anyway,
man, it's so weird because how they have that character. And I know we've talked at nauseam about this character and just the franchise, but like it's just so weird the route they went with the character as like essentially kind of like a buddy cop film. It's like you got Tom Hardy and then Venom, and they're just constantly going back and forth.
Terrible decision making. Like
that's not really the vibe of Venom. Like it's not like Venom versus the person. Like that's a part of it, but that's, I don't know. Like
I know we've talked about this a million times, but Andrew Garfield only got 2 movies. You could have just done a 3rd movie and just called it Spider-Man and Venom, and just told the story, and then you could make your Venom movies. Like just do that. Don't tell me people wouldn't have seen that movie.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter.
See that movie now. If you
make it now, I'll go see it right now. 3 times probably.
Anyways.
Nice. Anyway, that was my next thing. Did you have anything else?
I think I had one more thing that I didn't talk about. And then the Dune show came out this week. I haven't watched it yet, so Dune that's Prophecy, on my Dune Prophecy. It's on my list to start. As it popped up on my HBO or on Max and was like, you need to watch this. I completely forgot that the dude from Vikings, Ragnar Lothbrok, is one of the main characters. And then obviously, who's the bad guy? Who is the bad guy? Mark Strong. Freaking Ragnar and Mark Strong are they in this? It has to be so good. I haven't seen it yet. But
I don't know. I haven't watched it yet either, and I'll probably wait till a bunch of episodes come out, like I did with the Penguin. But most of what I've seen so far have said it's very boring.
Oh, lame.
So I don't know. Well, let's see. And that was most of the reviews. I think they only got the first 3 or 4 episodes to watch.
Gotcha.
So we'll see. I mean, that's I don't base everything on reviews anyway. But
yeah, that's a good point.
Last thing I just wanted to say is the box office is about to explode next weekend. Gladiator 2 officially opened overseas in a lot of international markets over this past weekend. Made like $87 million internationally. It'll open up domestically this weekend, along with Wicked Part 1 Wickediator. Wickediator. I don't know.
Glicked. I thought Glicked was
Glicked?
what. Glicked is the new Barbenheimer.
Glicked.
Glicked.
Wickediator. Anyway, Glicked. Man, crazy.
Wickediator. I like that.
It does. It feels like Oppenheimer and Barbie all over again. Both movies have like tremendous reviews. Like they're both sounds like they're great. One's a complete action spectacle. One they're calling one of the best Broadway to screen adaptations ever.
Oh wow, I haven't seen those.
The reviews came out today, like the official embargo ended, and it's at like 95% Rotten Tomatoes with like 150 reviews, so it's up there.
Oh my god, I've seen some reviews for Gladiator that were good, but I've seen some that weren't. So I'm like,
Gladiator's like I think it's settled at like 75, which is plenty good. It's fresh, it's certified fresh, which is great. But I mean, I know it's going to be awesome one way or another.
Oh,
Denzel's in it, so
Pedro Pascal,
Denzel, like that's it. I don't care. People are going to get killed. Let's
Paul
watch
Mescal, Pedro Pascal, like sploosh. The floor is wet. Someone get a mop. God, It's interesting because like Wicked, like I've seen the show. I feel like that is the Broadway show that is in town like every year, and I feel like
because it's massive.
Yes, and I feel like it is an event every year when that comes to town. Like my Facebook and Instagram all get fucking every human I know is like, "Here's our Wicked."
I mean, I think every year you can either count on Wicked or Hamilton showing up anymore. So if not both.
So, yes. I feel like Wicked is even more like not. I think Hamilton is much bigger, but I feel like Wicked is more. Maybe it's an Omaha thing, but like people love them some Wicked. So
it's good. I've seen it too. It's pretty.
What are you going to see first?
Well, I think I'm gonna go Thursday night and see Gladiator, and then if we can figure something out with the family for the weekend, because I think everybody wants to go.
Yeah, they want to
see Wicked. Or maybe that'll be we'll see that during the holiday. You know,
dude, I have seen some wicked awesome popcorn buckets for Gladiator. There's freaking Maximus helmets. There's Coliseums.
Did you see what the Coliseum does though with the QR code?
Yes, you like QR code and it plays. Like, there's an actual Gladiator battle.
You hold your phone on. Pretty neat.
I don't think any of the cool ones that I had seen were AMC. So I'm kind of like, what's the AMC one gonna be?
I don't know. I'll let you know.
I saw one was like his armor, like
Shut up.
Shoulder blade armor. So
that's pretty cool.
Anyways, I'll probably go the same day as you, fool. So we'll go together.
Okay. Well, I never know what your schedule is.
I don't have one. I just live life by the
Thursday. I'll look at showtimes here in a minute. We're going. All right. Anything else? Excellent.
No.
That takes us into our nostalgia goggles movie of the week. Is it as good as we remember? The 1987 American sports drama, Over the Top.
Over the Top, brother.
Over the Top is was directed by Menahem Golan. Written by Gary Conway and David Engelbach, who did the story. Screenplay was by Sterling Siliphant and Sylvester Stallone. Cast includes Sylvester Stallone as Lincoln Hawk. What a badass name. Like, what a badass name. Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah, I will say, I had a ton of fun looking up fun facts for this movie because there are a lot. So, it's such a... This movie is... There's so much... there's just so much that I didn't realize there behind the scenes to unpack in this whole thing.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited for you to share some of these.
So interesting.
All right, so the rest of the cast includes the late, great Robert Loggia as Jason Cutler, Susan Blakely as Christina Hawk, Rick Zumwalt as Bob the Bull Hurley, and David Mendenhall as young Michael Hawk. Over the Top was produced on a $25 million budget. And only made $16 million at the box office. So, initial thoughts. Like, okay, I hadn't seen this movie in forever.
I haven't seen it in a millennia.
And I think you and I are going to have different thoughts on our rewatch.
For sure.
From what it sounded like when we started this episode, because I started watching it and it starts with that shitty 80s music as he's driving through the mountains. And I'm like, I'm worried this movie is going to suck. And I'm going to be so disappointed that I watched it and ruined my memory of it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I think you ran into more of that than I did. But
I did get a little bit of that in moments, not overall, but in moments.
It is such an 80s movie. Holy cow.
Yeah, it is a time capsule in a movie.
It's like so my kids are both in the living room when I started watching it because I was watching Sunday Night Football and then I was like, well, Chargers are going to run away with this, so I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to watch Over the Top now. And I'm like, you know what that is behind him? And they're in the diner and my daughter's like, what? I'm like, it's a vending machine. She goes, oh, okay. Weird looking. And I'm like, yeah, it's full of cigarettes.
Weird
She's
looking.
like, wait, what? I go, yeah, you can just put $1. You can put $2 in or something and pull the thing. A pack of cigarettes came out. It's probably 75 cents. I don't know.
My biggest, like, this movie I think actually is really good, but it's hidden under probably the worst score and music selection for a movie like in the history of time. Like the music is so 80s porn background music. It's all like piano, sad, even in moments where it's like you should be getting hyped up right now, like something badass happening. If they did with this movie is basically Rocky IV, but with shitty music. Like if they would have put Rocky IV type, like every song that plays in the movie is a banger, like it would have raised this up so much higher for me. So anyways, give us the synopsis before we start.
A couple things. So you're talking about the music. So we got to talk about a couple things here. So now the central theme of the movie is the Kenny Loggins classic, Meet Me Halfway.
Yes.
Meet me halfway.
It's
whatever.
And it's not a good song.
That song rocks. You're crazy.
Oh, it's a good song, but it doesn't like how do I say this?
But that part,
Top Gun does it right.
But that song is about him and his son. It's not about the arm wrestling.
I know that.
It's about them meeting.
Which I was kind of surprised. There's a lot less arm wrestling in this than I remembered.
Yeah.
Which I'm not opposed to it. I was more like, I guess I forgot how much this is more just about a dad and the son relationship. I thought I remember there being more arm wrestling throughout. But yeah, I know that the movie is about that relationship. And so that's why a lot of the music is, I don't know. It was too like sad and lovey-dovey. I wanted fucking kick ass. Anyways, give us a synopsis. Let's run down the movie here.
Okay. So Lincoln Hawk, Sylvester Stallone, is an over-the-road truck driver, owns his own truck, big old Hawk emblem on it, right? And it's this big old beater thing. So the movie starts where he's driving long distance and you see like almost like a parallel where he's like washing his truck, getting cleaned up. Meanwhile, there's a graduation ceremony at a military school, right? So if you don't know anything about this movie, something's happening. So he's getting cleaned up. He's getting his clip-on tie on and his denim shirt, right?
Yeah.
And his only pair of chinos. And he like arrives at the military school with an envelope. And you see this one kid, younger kid in the military school, and he's looking around. He's looking, is there anybody here at the graduation ceremony? Whatever. So the kid goes to get in a limo. Meanwhile, Sylvester Stallone goes into the office to see the colonel, whoever the colonel of the school is. The kid's about to get in the limo, and he's like, oh, is this Jason Cutler's limo? And he's like, yes, yeah, he couldn't make it. He said he'll meet you at the airport or whatever, right? So you get an idea. This kid's waiting for somebody that doesn't show up for things. right? And then he gets called into the office, and the colonel's like, Michael Hawk, you're going to go with your father. And the kid's like, I don't have a father, and
As he's
Sylvester,
standing in the room.
yeah, as he stands, I don't have a father. And here's Sylvester Stallone, deadbeat dad of the universe, here to pick up his kid.
Really.
So immediately, like, he's a deadbeat dad, went out for milk and didn't come back, right? And here's this kid that wants nothing to do with him. But the mom says, no, you're going to ride back with him to California, right? And he doesn't want to go, but he ends up going. And then he throws a couple tantrums. He runs out into traffic and almost gets killed.
Yeah,
Sylvester
that
Stallone
part I was like,
doesn't
wait, what
beat the
the
shit out of him.
What's going on?
Sylvester Stallone doesn't beat him to death, which is good. So basically, they're riding in the truck, and you're finding out his mom's sick. She's got heart issue. I don't think they ever specifically say what it is.
They said she's having heart surgery, but didn't give us what was wrong.
You don't know what it is. She's sick. Something's wrong with her. But basically, like, Lincoln had left when the kid was young, and him and his wife are still married, but they're estranged. Apparently, he had been writing to Michael, like he'd write him letters and stuff. No, there was no email back then. It was 1987. He's writing him letters, he'd write him birthday cards, he'd send him stuff. And the kid even makes a point saying, you never sent me anything. You never called, you never wrote, you never did anything. And he's like, I sent you stuff all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. So it kind of turns out that his mom, Christina, her dad is super rich businessman, right? Played by Robert Loggia, Jason Cutler. And he hated Lincoln. Like, a deadbeat, didn't want him around. And once he left, good, he's gone. We don't deal with him anymore. And he was basically, I don't think they ever come right out and say it, but he was basically hiding all the letters and stuff so that Michael grew up thinking his dad was a piece of crap, right? And didn't want to have anything to do with him, which isn't entirely untrue because he never came to see him.
I thought eventually we were going to get in the story that the granddad, like, he's the reason why they left. Like, he made him leave or something, but that never came about. I thought that
they don't say that. They needed to, because
that would have been a good story beat of making him not he left for a reason. Because at one point the mom even says, like, he had his reasons for why. Because you're almost like, wait, why is she defending him? Why is she defending him? Why does she want him to get to? I mean, I get it's very clear that she's probably dying and she wants her son to know his father, but also, like, based on the way they talk about it, he clearly just, like, totally left them to the fucking wolves. So it's interesting how she's so much. So, but then he talks about that he's wrote back and forth with his mom a lot. Yeah. So I thought that was weird that, like, okay, so he's been writing the mom and they've been staying in touch, but any of his letters for the boy have been getting taken from grandpa and hidden. Right. So anyway,
because they were living with grandpa, because grandpa, like, lives in this giant house in Bel Air.
It's the same. He lives in the same house that he did in the movie Scarface.
And it's also the same house that the Beverly Hillbillies lived in the TV show.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was more being sarcastic, but in terms of level of like gate and like full like staff, he's got like security, he's got like professional or full-time assistants and stuff. I was like, I just watched Scarface last week. It's the same guy, same character he's playing.
Yeah, basically. So anyway, they're traveling and they're going on their road trip back to California or whatever. And I stop at a diner. Turns out the kid's a little bitch and is like, everything's got salt and calories and cholesterol. You can't eat that stuff. And Stallone's like, okay, whatever. And then, like, some guy's like, you hawk.
That's a great Stallone you just did. I was not. You're Stallone and you're Arnold. Just kill me.
And he's like, "Are you Hawk?" And he wants to arm wrestle. They're betting on it. The whole diner. Apparently, you can just arm wrestle in diners.
Yeah, they set it up. All of a sudden, the Thunderdome appeared.
Maybe it's like glory holes, right? Like, there's like, people know what diners and restrooms have glory holes. Like, I know if I go to this diner, I can arm wrestle. Maybe it's like that, right? Like, it's, we didn't have the internet, so it's written on bathroom walls. Arm wrestling at Shirley's,
Well, so
Like,
you
so
find out more of the story of like this movie was actually based off of a real arm wrestler who there's a truck driver circuit of arm wrestling
yes,
competitions. Like that is
yes,
a real thing. So it makes sense in this movie
that
that
there's truck
they're
stops
going
where
to
people arm
truck
wrestle.
stops
Yeah,
and they're like and they all know each other and they're arm wrestling and stuff. So
yes. So
but it
they
was
arm.
interesting how they just randomly was like,
It is.
"Are
It's
you
funny.
Huck?
Yeah,
Let's go. I
yeah.
got 1,000 on me right now."
Right. So then they arm wrestle, and of course Stallone wins. Whatever. And the kid's like, "Oh, you're an arm wrestler." Sylvester Stallone, like, then he has to explain it to. And Bull shows up magically
Okay.
after.
That is my weirdest part. Like one of the parts of the movie, I was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, so so Sly gets challenged to an arm wrestle. He
Mhm,
goes and to arm wrestle this Neanderthal. It
mhm.
turns into Thunderdome. A table comes out. Crowds are around. It's like a
Like an arm
UFC
wrestling
fight.
table with
Yeah,
like pads
yeah.
and the handles
The
and
handles and everyone's like all surrounded, like cheering
yes,
over this
yeah,
table and the kid is still back at the diner counter, like watching, and you could
yeah.
tell he's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Eating his salad.
Yes, he's sitting, but this is the weirdest part. So the main bad guy, whose name is
Bob the Bull Hurley.
Bob the Bull Hurley, he's this mountain of a man,
He's a big
bald.
dude.
Fun fact, first fun fact of the movie: that actor, they paid $10,000 just to shave his head bald because they wanted him to be bald for the movie. And he wasn't a bald actor. And that was the only way he would do it if they paid him 10 grand. And they did,
All right.
which is wild. Two, he ended up keeping that bald head for the rest of his life
It
because he
worked.
loved it
It
so
looked good on
much.
it. Looked good on him.
Okay, so you very clearly get that he's the bad guy or he's
Right.
the defending champion. He walks up behind the kid, leans over and literally covers the kid's hand. Just starts talking to him about his dad. It's like, "You must be Hawk's son." And it was the weirdest. I'm like, "What are you doing, guy?" Like, hey,
Ooh.
pedophile.
Yeah, get out of here, creeper.
Yeah, I can't. The line that he said was very like, "What? Get away from me,
Yeah.
rapist!" So, like that part, I just had such a moment of like,
It's like,
"What
hey
in
kid, you want
the
some
hell?"
candy?
That's essentially what it was. He was all up in his ear. He literally full covered his whole hand,
Oh,
and then Sly comes over
I'm
and he kind
creeped
of
out.
backs off. But it was
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck was
And he's
that?"
like, and so he wants to arm wrestle Sly, and Sly's like, no,
Yeah.
see you in Vegas. And so then they go back on their trip. Well, now, they're bonding. He's showing the kid like how he has like this rig in his truck where he can work on his arm while he's driving,
Dude,
which is hilarious. He's
how
got like weight.
badass.
Well, now the thing that I didn't understand, he's like, Sly's like this, lifting this thing, and he tells the kid to do it, and the kid's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, that kid ain't lifting the same amount of weight. There ain't no way.
Yes, he's got a fucking weight. He's got a weight
They're like
system,
bricks. It's got like a cinder block on this thing.
literally like a weight pulley, like
Yeah.
a tricep machine,
Yeah.
essentially, in his fucking truck. So he's just driving and he's
Yeah.
constantly doing. Which one? He's never doing anything that looks like an arm wrestling move. It's more of
Right.
like he's just like
He's working
doing
them
this.
forearms. All right, he's working on it.
But you're right. I thought the same thing because as he's doing it, it looks like he's like really struggling, and
So
then he's like, "All right,
Sly's
you try."
Sly's arm wrestling arm, his dominant one, and then it's the kid's left hand, and I'm like, there ain't no way. There ain't no way.
He
That
fucking
kid can't do that.
throws that thing down like he's fucking
He's like,
nobody.
oh yeah, this is nothing.
Okay, so the kid, his background, they very clearly, he's at a military academy when you first pick him up. His dress blues are covered in medals and like he stands out that he was clearly above the other students. When they call him in, like the colonel calls him in, he's very like, "Yes, sir," very like military.
Yeah.
And then when he gets in the truck to go with dad, which he doesn't want to do, they are having conversations, and you can tell like the kid is highly educated, and that
Yes.
he even
He
talks
makes
about
fun of
like,
his dad.
yeah, he makes fun of him for having like, the world isn't all about muscles. Like,
Yeah.
do you have a single book in this truck? Like,
Yeah.
and so, but I think the one thing that was very 80s is they basically made, like, we're saying that because this kid, because you mentioned earlier, he talked about like food wise, he's talking about like
All the
fitness is
sodium,
not all
all
about
the
just
sodium and the
lifting. Yeah, like
cholesterol, and
it's like eating
yeah.
well
And
goes,
the,
like, will help
you know
with
how many
your
calories are in
fitness.
the chicken fried steak,
Yes.
and like how many grams of fat?
But if the way he said it, like, I didn't take it of like this little spoiled, nerdy freaking vegan. I took it as like, this kid's super, like, this kid's going to go very far. He's clearly going to be very successful in
Right.
life. And then this movie is trying to make him look like a bad guy or like that he is a spoiled rich brat for those things. So I was just like, I think I see what you were going for there, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, but then they emphasize it, like the part where he's talking about he's like, the average adult only has like a 50, like the average IQ of a
Oh,
15-year-old.
yeah. That is
And
when he got a
and then
little
he's like,
like,
a
what
truck
the
driver can only be like what, 12, 13, which I am. So
yeah, okay,
like,
you're right. You're
he's
right.
like,
You're right.
Dad, you're a fucking idiot. I'm smarter than you, is basically what he's trying to say. He's like, and then that's when Hawk's like, you're gonna drive the truck. And he gets out and he makes the kid drive the truck, and he's like, so the kid's driving the rig, and I'm like,
Oh, you're so smart.
yeah,
You
on the
figured this
highway.
out.
He's driving the rig on the highway, and it's like this, and I get it, it's the 80s. Like, yeah, I taught my 12-year-old how to drive a truck
Yeah,
on the highway in the
semi-truck
mountains. Like,
with a payload on
if
the
that
back.
if that kid screws up, y'all are going down a mountain. Like, okay.
Oh my God. It was funny because, like, as the kid was trying to learn how to drive this thing, it just kept going back and forth. And
Yeah.
Sly says a comment of like, "I'm starting to get sick here."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
It is funny. It's and it's cheesy. It's so cheesy, but
it's very cheesy, very 80s.
And then it gets, and there's a lot of things going on in this movie. Like, Grandpa goes to the school. He's mad at the colonel, and he's screaming at him, and he's like, "I'm gonna have your job," and blah blah blah, because you let him go with his dad. And he's like, "Well, the mom has custody, and she said he'd go with him. She called me. It's, I don't know what I can do."
Yeah.
And then he goes to the hospital. He flies to the hospital. The grandpa does. He sees the daughter. She's talked to Sly on the phone. She's talked to Michael. And he's like, "I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed that you would let him go with that deadbeat." And that's when you start finding out, like, the grandpa told the kid that, like, Sly went to prison for selling drugs, or that's why he was on the run. And, it's like, oh, okay, so grandpa's a jerk.
Yep.
Sly's still a shitty dad, but
yeah,
not as shitty as the kid thinks he is.
Yeah, Grandpa's made it 10 times worse.
Yeah, Grandpa, you probably could have just left it alone, and the kid would have figured out in a while that, yeah, he is a piece of shit dad. Yes. It's okay. And the worst part is they get to the hospital to see the mom, and she's dead.
Okay.
She died.
Okay, so
that day.
You're jumping ahead, but yes.
Okay.
Grandpa, rich granddad, like, he just flies in, meets with the colonel, flies back home. When the whole premise of this movie is dad is picking up son to drive from Colorado to California.
Spend 3 or 4 days together to get to know each other.
So he can get to know his son that he's never really known, to meet with his mom, who's having surgery on like a Wednesday. So like they're leaving Saturday. She's supposed to have surgery on Wednesday. They don't go into what her sickness is, but as they're on this journey, they call a couple of times. And as you said, and the granddad goes to the hospital, you very much pick up that each call, she's getting worse and worse, and she's not doing well. And some of the things she's saying, it's very much like, okay, like you could tell, like, okay, something tells me they're not going to get back in time.
I never would have guessed she was going to die if I hadn't.
Oh, I thought 100%. I was like, oh, they're setting this up where she's going to die before they even get there. And I did have that thought of, there's one side of me that's like, I understand from her standpoint of being like, if this is what it takes to get you two to spend time very close to each other for, even though I'm dying, because you could tell she knew, like that was what was best for the son long term, so she wanted that. But then there's the other side where I'm like, you're dying, like your son wants to see you, like you should have let him fly home. But I get both sides of that. So because eventually when they get there and she does die, the kid literally says that. It's like, I was fucking, you were making me arm wrestle some punk in a diner when my mom was dying. So we skipped that part. So
we did. We skipped that part. It's not really relevant to the story, but Sylvester Stallone basically finds some punk in another diner. Maybe it was maybe on the bathroom stall, it's like junior arm wrestling diner. I don't know. But anyway, finds some punk. It's got like this like yellow mullet, no sleeves. Looks like he could kick the shit out of Mike, like no problem.
He looks like the best friend of John Connor in
That's exactly who I thought it was too. Thought it was that kid. I was
the same fucking mullet.
Yeah, except he's blonde and not a redhead. I swear it was the same. It's not the same kid at all, but it was. Yes, I know what you're talking about. I thought the same thing. Yeah. But anyway, so Sly's like, bet I'll bet $10 year one. He could beat you 2 out of 3 times, and the kid's like, I'll take that bet. He looks like a little punk, and if he didn't know what he ordered.
He looks like a little pussy.
Yeah, if he would have known what he ordered, this house salad, he would have been right. Anyway,
so their buddies were just fucking barbecuing.
They're just roasting this kid, and Sly's just sitting there letting him take it. Like, you get tough. But he arm wrestles the dude on the pinball machine, and he gets his ass kicked the first time, and he runs out crying because he does a lot of running away and crying in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's ugly. He's an ugly crier. I will say that too. It's bad. Poor Mike. Poor David Mendenhall.
That was such a to me, I was kind of like, oh, that's like kind of fucked up, Sly. Like he takes his son. They're finally hitting it off. They're growing their relationship. Mike is starting to like him. Starting to see his dad's he might not be a drug dealer deadbeat like his granddad.
I just figured it out. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just figured it out. He made him arm wrestle the kid because he saw him doing that shit left-handed in the truck, and he knew he had arm wrestling protege written all over him. That makes sense. I got it. Figured it out. Carry on.
But the way that he went about that was, I felt like it was super fucked up to randomly throw his son to the wolves and just go pick some random punks and just arm wrestle my son now. And then when he does, they're arm wrestling over a pinball machine. So these kids who this fucking adult just walked up to him was like, arm wrestle my kid. And then as they're arm wrestling, he's in his son's shoulder. He's like, come on, Mike, you could do it.
You could do it, Mike.
Yeah, he was right in his fucking ear, you got this. As this kid's arm wrestling, it was just I couldn't step out of the context of this adult just randomly asked these teenagers to arm wrestle his son, and then he's treating it like it's a Rocky match. So
anyway, kid beats him the next 2 times. Yay, hooray! Oh, great dad moment. Mom's dead. Blah. We're back to that. Okay, so mom's dead in the hospital. Kid runs away. It's your fault. If I wouldn't have had to ride with you, I would have seen her and come to say goodbye. Blah blah blah. Not wrong, but that was mom's idea. So don't blame dad. He just drove you out there. Anyway, kid gets in the taxi cab. What?
You forgot about the part where the kid gets freaking kidnapped by people, which in the movie I was at the point where they walk out, so he does this arm wrestle thing.
Oh shit, that is right after he arm wrestles the kid.
He wins these 2 arm wrestle match, which is a heroic moment for them. And now you told me, Dad, and you were right, and they're celebrating. Right. They go to call mom, so Sly's on the payphone, and then all of a sudden 2 strangers come up and take Mike, steal him, and throw him in a van. And that was the first moment where I was like, wait, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
They clearly work for Grandpa.
He's getting kidnapped? I thought this was a low-level movie of an arm wrestler. So my first thought was is the bald bad guy champion trying to kidnap his son?
Kidnap his kid.
Before this arm wrestling
lower
match?
him over a lava pit during the arm wrestling competition in Vegas.
action chase scene fucking through the town.
Yeah.
Sly catches up and
runs him in off the road with his big rig, beats the
T-bones
shit out
his
of a
truck.
dude.
Yeah, saves his son.
Yep.
And the son doesn't even really ask any questions at all about
Nope.
it. He just Sly casually, he says, like, what was that all about? And he's like, ask your granddad. And then they just keep going. It's like, if someone tried to kidnap me and throw me in a car and drive away with me, I would be like, why are we not calling the police right now? What the fuck just happened?
There are multiple times in this movie where Sylvester Stallone could have called the police on the freaking kid's grandpa and definitely had charges pressed against him. Definitely.
Yes.
Okay,
multiple times.
That leads us to the point after the hospital.
Sorry.
No. I forgot about the kidnapping. I completely forgot about that scene. Anyway, so he gets in a taxi cab and Sly just lets him go. He's like, oh, okay, bye. I think it's, like the mom had died. He knows he's going to grandpa's house. He's in all these emotions, and Sly's like, I'm going to let him go. Right? So then the funeral happens. Like, they're having the funeral. Sly just walks up, drops a bouquet of flowers, and leaves. Like, that's
it's so late. In the middle of the ceremony, walks up and drops
with his clip on. Drops a bouquet of flowers.
Like, I'm like, he's not just going to walk right through the middle. Like, walks right
while they're giving
just drops flowers, and then he doesn't even stay. He just walks right away. I was like, what an 80s badass.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
So Sly does that. He goes to see Grandpa, right? That's the next part. Goes to the house, right? To see Michael and see the grandpa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And goes to the gate. We don't want you here, right? Like the thug, the goons, the security that work for Grandpa. Get out of here. We're going to call the cops. Sly, call the cops, Sly. You got your kid in the house.
Yes. And you have custody.
Yes.
Which I don't think he knew. He didn't know that Grandpa did. So literally everything Sly does in the next two scenes completely works against him in any case that he might have had.
So they get out of here. So Sly backs his rig up the hill, and then he just drives through the gate, through the fountain, through the grass, knocking over all the lawn ornaments, hits the front door, knocks it over.
Yeah, there's a giant fountain he drives right through the middle of.
Runs inside, Michael! And the kid's like, Dad. And then, of course, all the goons grab him. They call the cops. They hold him. The cops show up, right? They take him to jail, right? All you got to do is say, they kidnapped my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we know why you drove through the gate now. I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah, there was
logic.
None of that.
So he goes to prison or jail. Grandpa's secretary shows up, and he's like, here's the deal. Like, if you give up custody, all that, we'll let you go. Like, no charges pressed. You can leave. You can do your thing. He's like, well, no. He's like, unless that's what Michael wants. So then, of course, he's like, well, you talk to him yourself.
Yeah, and then he walks right in.
Yeah, Michael walks right in, and it's what's best, if I stay here and do this, and it's gut-wrenching.
Yeah, right? It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, but he's kind of a shitty dad, so, I don't know what you expected.
Yeah, and when you see all the things that Grandpa has, like the lifestyle that he would live, and
what 12-year-old's not going to pick that over your deadbeat dad that lives in a truck?
Who's betting $1,000 arm wrestles like in
who you haven't
diners.
seen in 10 years, like who
you sleep in the truck, like eventually they stop to sleep, and they literally it's not even like a camper truck
not a sleeper
where there's
cab.
a bed. They just are sitting in the chairs. Right. So
he said, he even says, if your neck gets sore, you can lean on my shoulder.
Oh yeah, that was another line or kind of moment where I was like, that was kind of weird.
That's
like
creepy.
It was just kind of creepy,
dude.
Yeah, he's like, it's the first night after he just picked his son up, and his son is like, I don't even know who you are. I don't have a dad. And he's like, if you want to use my shoulder as a pillow, you can. He was like,
please don't say it like that.
He was like, I'm okay. He's like, but seriously, you can. Like, that's what that scene was. It was so fucking weird.
Stop. So anyway, Sly's like, okay, sign me the papers. He leaves, sells his truck, keeps the hawk ornament. sells his truck, takes the money, goes to Vegas, enters the arm wrestling tournament, right? Trucker division. You win like a $250,000 sleeper cab big rig, right? Which that's in 80s money. So that's like $10 billion today.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Anyway.
A lot of Quaaludes you can buy with that.
Bingo. So he's in the arm wrestling tournament. And they, I think, did do a really good job of making arm wrestling look interesting for the last 20 minutes of the movie. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how many times you see guys do this and like, oh yeah,
I thought I remember the movie having like where they were going to multiple places, kind of like that, but that wasn't the case. So, other fun fact: when they signed, when it was decided this movie was going to be made, they created a like massive like arm wrestling tournament. They had qualifiers, some in Europe, some in the States, some in Canada. Like they had these big qualifying events. Basically, for a year, they were like on the road. The actual guy who they like based this movie off of, the truck driver arm wrestler, he went on like a camper tour with the truck that he won in the tournament in real life. He drove that around to these events, and they basically made it where they built up these 5 or 6 major qualifying tournaments to get to a final tournament that they did at the Hilton in Las Vegas. So most, if not all, of the arm wrestlers in the movie are actual professional arm wrestlers, most of them. And most of the scenes that you see in the actual like arm wrestling tournament, once you get into it at the movie and they're showing like this massive tournament, that was all actual footage of the real tournament. The only parts that weren't were Sly's scenes, which they did the day after the finals had ended. So like that whole setup and how it looked and how it was played out, how there was a crowd there, and how they did those little interviews with some of the arm wrestlers, those were like all real deal. Like that was all actual arm wrestling tournament. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Multiple world arm wrestling champions John Berzank, Cleve Dean, Scott Norton, Alan Fisher, John Vreeland, and Andrew Cobra Rhodes all make appearances in this movie. Also Randy Rainey, who played Mad Dog Madison. I think he's one of the big guys in the semifinals. Actually he was an actor, but he actually was in Rambo 3 as well. Which
I saw that too. That was one of the guys that went against Sly in the final.
Yeah, I think it was like the next to last guy. Yeah.
There's a very brief moment where a guy looks like he hurts his arm. That was the actual footage. The dude straight up broke his arm during this tournament, and they fucking filmed it and used it in the movie.
Okay. I was going to say, like, we'll get to it here in a second, but like in the final match, like I swore in my mind, I don't know if this is like a Mandela effect thing. Like I swore Sly broke the dude's arm when I watched this movie on TV. No, I'm serious. I was like, he breaks his arm. I remember he breaks the guy's arm at the end, and then he didn't. And I was like, did I watch this on television? There was a different version of the end. Like it was one of those, like, I swear I had that in my mind. He did. But anyway, Sly's doing the tournament. Meanwhile, the kid's back at the mansion. He's going through his mom's stuff, and he finds all the letters that his dad wrote to him. That were hidden away from him. And now he's mad because somebody was lying. And it wasn't his dad. Because his dad wrote letters. Even though he wasn't around for 10 years, he wrote letters. And so that's okay. Whatever.
Wrote him a couple birthday cards.
I had my reasons. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what she said too.
He had his reasons.
Okay. He had his reasons.
Yeah. If we ever over the top 2, why does dad suck? I don't know. Anyway, so the kid steals a car.
Literally
steals a car. He steals a truck out of Grandpa's garage. He drives to the bus station and gets on a bus. He gets on a bus, right?
No, he goes to the airport.
Hey, how's that kid get a plane ticket?
He lives in L.A. Vegas is like an hour
like 3 hours. Is it 3 hours? It's not even 3 hours, is it?
It's pretty short. Maybe it's 3, but I'm pretty sure it's like an hour and a half. Like it's not.
It probably would have been faster to drive.
Yes,
the whole way.
And obviously he comes from a very wealthy background, but like,
Right.
how did he pay for that airplane
He stole
ticket?
money. I don't know. There's probably loads of cash in this because Grandpa's clearly up to shady dealings.
Very clearly.
Kid gets there. I think Grandpa got there first, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So he
I don't know how
fucking
that
steals
works
this
again.
car to go on a trip.
Grandpa has a teleporter machine.
Yeah, and
Like
then
he
Granddad.
teleported from military school to the hospital, and now
Yes.
he's teleporting from home to taking his
So he
private jet. I don't know.
to Las Vegas, where the tournament is happening, and
Of
then gets the presidential suite.
course, because nobody else would have been staying in it during this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. So that was
So Sly's in the semifinals. Grandpa calls him up to the room. They have a conversation. Basically offers him like $500,000 and a truck, which which was trying to win if he just leaves and goes away and stays out of the kid's life. And he's like, no. And he throws one of the goons through a window. And
which
then
that
Michael
goon was a famous wrestler, I think, or
was
who
it?
was. I can't
I
remember
don't
who
know.
it was, but anyways, keep going.
Anyway, so Sly goes back down to the tournament. Michael shows up. Dad, I'm here. Great. Sly faces, Bob the Bull Hurley. Sly wins. Wow, surprise. Sly wins the tournament. He's the new champion. Him and the kid are happy now. Grandpa's watching and he like approves now. I don't know. Like he's got this look like, I get it. Now it's okay. And they get the trophy and they get the truck. What do you got?
That cameo, I was right. That was Terry Funk who was playing. Terry Funk is like the most famous hardcore wrestler of all time. He's like the Hulk Hogan of hardcore wrestling. Anyways, sorry.
Well,
Continue.
fascinating. Terry Funk. Grandpa's okay with it. Apparently, they get the truck. He puts the Hawk emblem on it, and they're going to start their own truck company, Hawk and Sons.
Yeah. That was it. That was how it ended.
It's the end of the movie.
It's been so long since I'd seen this movie. I didn't remember like there are parts of it that I very vividly remember. And then there was parts of it I was like, fuck, I completely forgot that was a part of this movie.
Listen, me watching this now, even with the cheesiness and the questions and everything, I don't give a shit. This movie rocks. I love it.
Yeah.
Like it's just as good as I remember it. I would watch this movie again. Arm wrestling's badass. The worst part about this movie is that kid's a crybaby. But whatever. I don't want to shit on child actors. I do feel bad because he won two golden raspberries. He won 2 Razzies for this movie. Worst newcomer and worst supporting actor, which is hilarious.
My God,
yeah,
really?
I know. I hate it when they give that shit to kids.
Unless
it was Jake Lloyd, that'd be okay. But like kids don't deserve to get crapped on like that. And poor kid probably did. And he probably had mental problems afterwards. But
yeah, we should probably stop talking about kids getting crapped on.
You were getting creepy earlier. Anyway, listen. I think this movie's great. Nostalgia goggles for me. Still good. Movie's a 7.5. I love it. I will watch this movie. It rocks.
Though there were a lot of this movie that I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't remember that because I was a kid. I still think it's freaking awesome. It's a fucking kick-ass movie about arm wrestling with Sylvester Stallone. Yes, take my money. I wouldn't say it's a 7. I would put it as a 5.5 because there's a lot better Sly movies, but it's a cool movie. It's a cool movie, a niche movie that I feel like even a lot of people that are Sylvester Stallone fans don't even know this movie exists. So
true.
Which is one of the things that Sly said, because basically Sly did not like the movie. He thought it was bad. He thought a lot of stuff should have been different and changed. And originally he had turned down doing this movie multiple times. He wanted nothing to do with it because he thought it sounded so lame. But every time he turned it down, they offered him more and more and more and more money. which eventually I think it ended up, it was either 10 million or 12 million.
12.
There's
It was 12. He was
12. Yeah, there's two.
half the movie's budget was his salary.
Yes. So 12 million, which there was a couple reports. Some said 10, some said 12.
Mhm.
But at that time, I think they said this was the most an actor had ever been paid for a single role, was over the top for Sylvester Stallone, which I think was like such a random fun fact.
That's a lot of money.
So, which is exactly what he said of like, eventually I just said yes, because they were going to pay me that much money and I knew nobody was going to see it. So that's what his response was.
Right.
They kept throwing money at me and I knew no one would see it. So he changed.
Hard to say no.
He changed the ending. Sly pulled the strings and changed that he won. Originally in the movie, they were going to have him lose. And in his words, in Rocky 1, it was okay for him to lose, but now at this point, his facial IP, like, we don't want to associate that with losing. It won't, like, it will send a different message for the movie. But anyways, this movie is so random, but it's cool as hell because it's an 80s arm wrestling movie with Sylvester Stallone, who's a truck driver. Go see it. Go watch it.
Yeah. And that over the top.
I was still joking with you. They could totally do an over the top 2 power slap, since that's like a new thing. That's basically like a modern arm wrestling thing.
So. Except for lots of head injuries. Anyway.
Yeah. A lot more interesting finishes.
Right. That takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So we went with, boy, I was like, what can we do that has to do with Sylvester Stallone in arm wrestling movies? And I was like, what if we did top 5? What was the term we used? Did we use unconventional sports movies? Right? Yep. So we basically said top 5 sports movies that have nothing to do with like baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, boxing, like something that's random, right? Like it's a sport that's either not a huge thing or it's not something you see a lot of movies made about, right? Mm-hmm. So I did sports, but I did gaming too, kind of, because I consider it sports because it's competition. So I went with a little different there. All right, so my top 5 unconventional sports movies. Did not do any honorable mentions. I could have, because I had like 9 movies. I'll just list a couple. They're not on the list. Like Kingpin didn't make the list. Like I didn't want to put it on my list because it's been at the top of a couple other lists, but like Warrior, I guess, is kind of in there, but didn't put it on my list because I've had it so many times. So I went with other stuff.
That's exactly what I did with mine too. I was like, there's some that would be on here, but since I've done a lot of lists with them, I'm going to leave them out.
We did fighting tournament movies for a top 5 list one time, and we had so I didn't want to do like martial arts really, so I didn't do that on here. So anyway, top 5. Number 5, I put Dodgeball. Dodgeball's great. I'm sure it's on your list. I know you've had it on other lists before. Dodgeball's terrific, hilarious, great cast. All the things that we've talked about when we've talked about that movie before. I haven't had it on a list before. I know Kyle has, but like it is hilarious. It's great. Like there's so many famous people in it too, even like people that are like small characters, like Justin Long's in it, just Alan Tudyk's in it, Steve the Pirate, like people like that it just, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen
instant classic.
It really is. Rip Torn. It's great. At number 4, I had Cool Runnings. Nice. Cool Runnings, classic. It's a Disney movie. Jamaican bobsled team. I'm sure like it's one of those movies that I think everybody's seen at least once. It grew up in the 90s. John Candy's the coach. Basically takes like these Jamaican track stars that don't qualify for the Olympics and turn them into an Olympic bobsled team. It's really heartfelt. It's really cool. Really entertaining movie. Great family film too. So if you've never seen Cool Runnings, definitely highly. All right. So the top 3 that I really want to talk about. At number 3, I had The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, nice. I freaking love that
movie. Rocks. Like it was made like, I think it's an Aronofsky movie and he made it for Mickey Rourke. Like it was Mickey Rourke's movie Even though the studio was like, no, we don't want Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke was this like 80s actor that like got weird, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then, boy, he had this like renaissance
Yeah.
where he did The Wrestler and then he was Marv in Sin City. And like both roles were just, oh my God, so freaking good.
Yeah, he
And then he
killed it.
got to be the bad guy in Iron Man 2. Right? He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Whiplash, like all that stuff. The Wrestler's such a great movie.
Dude.
Super dramatic. Like
I
Mickey
didn't know
Rourke.
you've seen that movie.
Oh, I
I
love that
love The
movie.
Wrestler.
Yeah, The Wrestler's great. And Mickey Rourke I think he got nominated for an Oscar for it. Like it was
He did.
tremendous.
He thought there was actually a lot of stuff behind the scenes with that, where they thought that he was going to have a very strong chance to win Best
Mhm.
Actor. Then the WWE actually wanted to have him do a WrestleMania match with Chris Jericho during that time frame.
Oh, would have
But
been cool.
when WrestleMania lined up, it lined up like right before the Oscars, I want to say. And they thought if Mickey Rourke lost at WrestleMania to a wrestler, like that would hurt him. Like
Really?
losing that would help him lose. So it's kind of a weird thing, but I just heard that story like very recently. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
interesting you
fascinating.
brought that up. So, anyways.
All right. So anyway, I had The Wrestler. So my top
Nice.
two are not necessarily sports per se,
Okay.
but and my number two movie, and I know you haven't seen this, is Rounders with Matt Damon, Edward Norton, and John Malkovich. It's a movie about poker, about
nice.
playing poker. And like, so Matt Damon's this like college student who's like great at poker, like card counting and all that. He's great. This was the movie that like nobody who outside of the poker world knew what Texas Hold'em was till this movie came out. And this was like the movie that like all of a sudden Texas Hold'em got popular.
Yeah, like it's the new hotness.
Right. And that was this movie had a lot to do with that. And Edward Norton, Matt Damon, John Malkovich is fucking great. And John Malkovich is the most cartoonish Russian bad guy in this movie. But like, it's super entertaining. Like the poker matches, the things that happen. It's great. Like if you've never seen Rounders, highly, highly recommend. And I know you haven't. I think we're going to do an episode on it after the first of the year because it's so freaking good. And then number one, I love this movie, and it's not necessarily sports, but again, it's like a gaming competition movie. Searching for Bobby Fischer. Have you ever seen Searching for Bobby Fischer?
Mm-mm.
Searching for Bobby Fischer is a movie about chess, and it was made in the 90s, and tremendous film. It's fantastic. Like Joe Mantegna's the dad, Joan Allen's the mom, Ben Kingsley's the chess coach.
I think I have seen this.
It's a true story about this kid that like he's like this phenom when it comes to playing chess. Like he just learns the game and he's like instantly, Lawrence Fishburne's in it too. And he's instantly terrific. And it's about him and like wanting to be a normal kid and his dad like pushing him to be a chess champion. And meanwhile, like there's this other kid parallel that's like this foreign kid that like he lives, breathes, eats chess. Like, and that's how they're coaching him and training him. And they end up playing in this chess tournament. Such a great movie. I loved it. I've watched it like 100 times, but
I think I've seen it on TV.
Yeah, it's really good. If you've never seen it, Searching for Bobby Fischer, tremendous movie. So I had that as my number one.
Fascinating. Love that. Love your list. It is very different than mine. Well, there's some similarities there. Your top two did different direction than I thought you were going to go.
I know I cheated a little bit.
Actually, I have one on my top five that I probably could switch out with one of my honorable mentions because it is soccer. But when I was doing this list, this movie, it's not your tip. It's very unconventional.
I know you're a big Bend It Like Beckham fan. It's all right.
No, I was going through movies. Anytime we do a list, like when I'm running around with the kids and like my wife's home, I'll say like what our top five is and just to see what hers might be off the top of her head. And I was reading through a list. I said Bend It Like Beckham, and she was like, "Oh, that's such a great movie." I'm like, "No, it's not." So, anyways, that's not on my list. But let's go through mine. I have 3 honorable mentions. Because I have 3, I will not talk much about them. But my first honorable mention for non-traditional, unconventional sports movies, Disney's Johnny Tsunami.
I have no idea what that is.
I was gonna say this might age you a little bit because like this was really big Disney Channel home movie. Johnny Tsunami, he's like a world champion like teen surfer. He's like famous across the world as a surfer.
So this
His
is like a
family,
Disney Channel original movie?
yes, but
Okay.
everybody knows it. It's kind of like
Not everybody.
oh, what's that space movie from Disney where they say zoom, zoom, zoom? That like everybody knows the movie. And now, of course, I can't think of the fucking name of it. Damn it, I'm gonna get roasted by everyone for it. Disney Channel movies matter, okay? When I grew up, these were like the movies. Like everybody saw these movies. So I bet I'm gonna get a text about when I say Johnny Tsunami. Anyways, it's about a freaking world champion high school aged kid surfer who gets moved, who lives in Hawaii, and him and his family, or individually, gets moved to a snow mountain town, and he basically
Does he
he
start
can't surf.
snowboarding?
He can't surf anymore, so then he starts snowboarding, and he
Oh
like
my
learns
gosh,
how
I
to
can't believe
snowboard.
it.
it's it's a freaking badass movie. Anyways, Johnny Tsunami, honorable mention. Cool Runnings is another honorable mention of mine. I knew you were going to have it on your list, which is why I took it off of mine because I wanted to talk about something else. And then another one, I have Balls of Fury as
Oh
an
yeah.
honorable mention. So
Yeah.
ping pong movie. It's like
Mhm.
it's like an old like martial arts type like old school vibe, but it's a funny ping pong tournament movie. It's very like one of those Bruce Lee type movies, but ping pong and funny. But I was on my mentions on my list. Top 5. Here we go. I love that you had the wrestler on there. Probably in terms of by the Academy's standards, a much better movie than this wrestling movie. But this movie I like watching way more. It's a guilty pleasure movie of mine
Is it
called
No Holds Barred?
it's called no. Oh my god! I can't believe you know about No Holds Barred.
Dude, that was
Hulk,
that was when I was into wrestling.
Hulk
Zeus.
Hogan, Rip. What's it? Yeah, Zeus versus Rip something. Hulk Hogan's name is. So they just came out with figures of that a couple years ago. No, number 5, unconventional, non-traditional sports movie. I've got Ready to Rumble. This is a wrestling movie
That's the one with
that
Arquette?
came out. It has
Yeah.
David Arquette in it. It's about WCW
Is
wrestling.
it Scotty Khan?
Yes,
The other one? Yeah.
Scotty Khan and David Arquette are two best friends who love WCW wrestling.
Hmm.
Their parents want them to give wrestling up and stop being dumb and go get real jobs. And they follow their dreams to go and find the king, who is basically like the world famous, kind of like Hulk Hogan, but they find out he's not as great as his character is in real life. He's kind of a shitty dude. But basically, Diamond Dallas Page is the main bad guy in the movie. He takes out the king, and the movie does such a cool job because it has all these famous wrestlers in it in their actual like WCW setting. WCW partnered with it. But the story is cool because the king is this famous wrestler, and Diamond Dallas Page is supposed to normal fake wrestle with him, and they decided the winners, but he doesn't. He full on beats the shit out of the king with brass knuckles and actually fucking beats the hell out of him, takes the title. And so it turns into them trying to help the king get back into wrestling and go get his title when it's not fake anymore. It's actually real. So it's such a freaking great movie. I love it. I forget the name of the actor who plays the king.
Oh, it's Oliver Platt.
Oliver Platt.
Oliver Platt rocks.
I commented on some Ready to Rumble post like a year or two ago. about how like badass I love this movie and like this is one of my favorite movies ever for whatever reason. He commented back on like on
Shut
my
up.
Facebook post to me and was like super cool about basically saying like thanks for loving this movie because it's one of my favorites too. So anyways, it's a super fun movie. It's hilarious. There's so many funny things. It's a freaking perfect 90s 2000s vibe. Ready to Rumble, one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies of all
You know,
time.
my favorite, Oliver Platt like does all these like dramatic movies, but you know what my favorite movie that he's in is Lake Placid.
I was gonna say Lake Placid.
He's so fucking funny in that movie.
He is
I
funny.
love that movie.
His character, the king in this wrestling movie, it's like this is his like magnum opus acting. Like he's this fucking like southern twang, talks kind of like Elvis, which is kind of like what his character is. It's like he's like Elvis if he was a knight.
Right.
If that makes sense. Anyways, number 4. Here's my soccer movie. I don't know why we watched this movie so much in my house, but we loved it. And basically, the Ham from The Sandlot is the like most famous person in this movie.
Big Green.
The Big Green.
Yeah.
This soccer movie is about this crappy little podunk town high school team or high school that creates a soccer team with kids that have no business playing soccer. They've never played the sport before. And I can't remember the specific premise of it, but I think they're like playing the team. They create this soccer team and they have to win the championship. So like the school will stay open or something. But they basically turn this crappy field behind their school that's got cow poop all over it into a soccer field. And then the games are hilarious. The goalie, who is Ham, is so bad at being a goalie. The only thing that he can do to help him be good is to picture the bad guy players as their mascots. So like multiple times in the movie it clips and there's Terminators on the field, like fucking running through and like ninjas and stuff. It's just such a cool, I don't know. I thought that movie was freaking awesome as a kid. We watched it a lot. Number 4, The Big Green. Number 3, here's another one you clearly will never have heard of, and it breaks my heart. But this movie was like, this was every high school and junior high girl's crush and heartthrob sexual awakening for a lot of my gay friends. The movie Brink. It's a rollerblade movie. Never heard of Brink? Oh, dude.
Is it the one with
Brink is badass.
Elliot Page?
No, this is way before.
Oh, okay.
I think Elliot Page had to have been like 3 when this movie came out. But basically, it's a rollerblade movie where it's like Karate Kid in that there's like Cobra Kai. There's this badass group of rollerblade team that
rollerblades
that they are the top dog. They win everything. And then there's this guy Brink and his goofy like friends who like to skate because they just like to do it. They don't do it to compete. And Brink basically they're trying to get Brink to come over to the bad guy side and team and join. And it's just so good. The good guy and bad guy dynamic is so freaking great. The bad guy is ultra evil, high school jock, bad guy, captain of the rollerblade.
Oh, this is another Disney Channel original movie.
It's a Disney Channel. I almost had another one that I was going to put on here, but I had to back off because I was like, all right, Brink, The Big Green. I talked about Johnny Tsunami. Lord. But I'm telling you, Brink and Johnny Tsunami, Brink way more than Johnny Tsunami, is like, it's like essential viewing for people in my age group. So, but Brink is one of my top 5. It's my number 3 non-conventional sports movies of all time. Number 2, I've got Surf's Up. It's a surf movie. It's a Shia LaBeouf animated movie about penguins who surf. But oh my God, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but it's one of Shia LaBeouf's best movies
Oh my
ever.
god, you're killing me here.
Have you seen Surf's Up?
No, I haven't seen
Dude,
Surfs Up.
oh, it's so good. Shia LaBeouf is a penguin who he's like an Alaskan penguin who is obsessed with wanting to be a surfer. It's like a pro surfer movie. These pro surfers are doing the voices for him. But Jeff Bridges is the voice of basically like the greatest surfer of all time who died in this big tournament that happens every year. And so Shia LaBeouf, it's one of Shia's best movies actually. It's so good. Your family would love it. I'm telling you. My
Okay,
kids love it. A lot of the songs that we play at my pool playlist outside during summer season are from this movie. So
really?
but basically Shia runs away from home to go after this surf tournament, and which is basically set on like Hawaii. And as this giant tournament is going on, he finds this kind of fat, out of shape, like Rasta, like hippie guy that lives on the island. Turns out that is Jeff Bridges. His
It's the
character is
dude
this. He's Big Z is what he's called. But like the world,
Lebowski.
yeah, he like disappears under a wave in this tournament, and like no one found his body. He's just disappeared for years and years and years. So like, and Big Z is Shia's character's like idol. Like he talks about him throughout the whole movie. So then he ends up stumbling upon him and learns from him, and then finds out this guy who's been teaching him is actually Big Z. And it's so good. I fucking love Surf's Up. My kids love Surf's Up. It is stacked with voice actors. There's so many famous voice actors in it. It's If you haven't seen it, it really is worth a watch. Surf's Up. It's my top two non-conventional. And then number one, I've got Dodgeball. You've already kind of talked about it. Dodgeball it's a timeless, instant classic movie. There's a million superstars in it.
Mm-hmm.
That movie gets quoted and one-lined to this day by people in households and workplaces every single day. It is so good. It's been a while since I've seen it actually. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I just saw recently that they have greenlit a second one.
Oh,
I think so. I think they're bringing a second Dodgeball. But it's such a good movie. It's so
hilarious.
funny. Vince Vaughn and Ben Stiller are just the best freaking average Joes versus the freaking Cobras. It's a good little. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Michelle. It's just such a great fucking movie. But yeah, it's my number one. There we go. That was.
Thank you for having a movie for adults at the end of your list.
No, I didn't have any. I thought as you were going through yours, I was like, oh, he's going for Oscar nominated, and I've got Brink.
Brink. Johnny Tsunami.
Johnny Tsunami.
Oh,
I bet I'll
man.
get at least one text from somebody that'll be like, fuck yeah, Brink was on there.
I'm sure you will. And yeah, you were
Suds
watching
and stuff.
you were watching Brink, and I was watching like South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Hey, I liked that movie too. It's not a
Yeah,
sports
you
movie.
probably watched it 10 years after it came out.
That's not true.
Okay.
You are not that much older than me. Okay. That takes us to our final segment, our How Rotten is Your Tomatoes? We have still not changed the name of the segment, which means it sticks. But this is the part of the show where one of us goes and picks a few groupings of movies, and we throw them at the other and ask, what's the Rotten Tomatoes score? Which one's higher and which one's lower? And so that way we can kind of talk a little bit about some other movies, but it's usually there's some stumps in there, throws us for a loop. Every now and then, Howie will guess the exact score for a movie, which is honestly not surprising at this point, but always interesting to see.
If these are all Disney Channel original movies, I'm screwed.
I specifically knew, like, I knew you weren't going to know those movies, one. And two, I went for only movies that I knew you knew. Really, there's no rhyme or reason for this particular. I didn't stay on theme other than for the first three groupings are 80s movies, and then the last two groupings are kind of in the 90s. So I was just like, we're seeing an 80s movie, I'll stick in that world.
Cool.
So
I like it.
all right, so the first up, I've got 1984's Karate Kid versus 1989's classic The Batman. Actually, it's just Batman. Karate Kid versus Batman.
I say Batman's higher. Batman's.
What would you score it?
Boy, I think I just had Batman a couple weeks ago.
On my list, or you just went over the?
No. I think I had it on. I had it on one of the ones I gave you. I don't remember either. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, Batman's 82. Karate Kid's 81.
Well, clearly you did not remember from, and neither did I, from the last episode that we did that, but Karate Kid is higher.
Ooh, really?
Much higher, actually.
Much higher.
Karate Kid is an 89%.
Huh.
The original Karate Kid is an 89%.
I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm surprised it's that high.
That was my exact response when I saw that. Not that I think it's a bad movie, but I was like, an 89?
Yeah, Karate Kid's pretty fucking great.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to use that as my stump movie. The Batman. Well, just Batman 89 is a 70%.
Ooh, gross. Get out of here.
Right? Isn't that shocking?
It doesn't seem right.
It's shocking. 70%. Okay, here we go. Let's jump into 1989. Two movies from the same year.
All right.
We've got 1989's cult classic, a movie that I love, which now that we're talking about it, I think, have I talked about this on the pod or maybe on one of these lists before? I got 1989's The Burbs, which maybe we did. I don't think we have. The Burbs. It's
I actually watched that not that long ago with Reagan.
Old Tom Hanks. Honestly, I hadn't seen that growing up. The first time I saw it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
It's a weird movie. It's good though.
I've never even heard of this Tom Hanks movie. Someone had talked me into it and was like, wow.
I think it was like the first movie I ever saw with Carrie Fisher, not Princess Leia. And I was like,
it's weird. It's weird. But in a good way. I like it. It gets way off the rails. But 1989's The Burbs versus 1989's favorite in our household, Look Who's Talking.
Oh boy, that's tough. I'm going to say
John Travolta and what's her name?
Kirstie Alley.
Bruce
Willis is the baby.
I love those two movies. I loved them.
There's three of them.
Loved them. I know, but the first two are the only ones people remember.
Well, yeah, because the third one was dogs. I'm gonna actually say Look Who's Talking. I think is higher, and I'm gonna say like 78, and I'm gonna say The Burbs is like a 67.
You're right, and that Look Who's Talking is higher at a 59%.
Barf! Wow.
The Burbs a dismal 42% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, two low ones here, but two movies I think we know and love.
I thought The Burbs is a good movie.
Yeah, I did too, but it is not fresh.
I mean, maybe it's because it's so weird.
It gets very off the rails.
It is. Oh, Corey Feldman's in that too. He's actually probably the best part of that movie.
Yep, there's a lot of people in that movie. And then when you get to the end and all of a sudden all the crazy shit starts happening and more people show up, you're like, oh, you're in this movie too?
Right.
It's a wild movie.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump a little bit further back in time. We're going with 1984's classic, burned in every child's brain, never-ending story versus 1986's Little Shop of Horrors. Have you ever? Oh my God, you've never seen Little Shop of Horrors?
I've seen it. I watched it not that long ago.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Little Shop of
what?
Horrors has got to be higher. Like, I feel like it has to be, and if it's not, I feel like
Never Ending Story.
No, Little Shop of Horrors has got to be higher.
Okay. Have you seen Never Ending Story?
Yeah. I grew up in the 80s.
I know you did. That's why I asked.
The saddest scene in a children's movie ever.
Yes.
That's
why I said
Guys.
Burned in every child's brain who's seen it.
Boy, Little Shop of Horrors 78. Never Ending Story 73.
Little Shop of Horrors is higher. At a
Thank
91.
God. Okay.
91%.
I was being conservative, but I was thinking like that's got to be in the 80s. Okay. All right. Good deal. 91.
91% for Little Shop of Horrors, and Never Ending Story is an 83%.
Wow. Okay.
See, I thought I was like, wow, you'd think Never Ending Story was higher based on just, everybody knows Little Shop of Horrors, but I feel like Never Ending Story is like really remembered. Anyways, okay, that's our 80s movies. We are going to jump in the time machine, take a trip forward, and we're going to head to 1991, one of Kyle's favorite cult superhero movies, The Rocketeer, versus 1997's badass Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers is higher.
Okay. What would you score them? Do you remember? Because I know we talked about it on our episode of Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. I can't remember if critics understood it or not. I'm going to say Starship Troopers is a 60. And The Rocketeer, if I remember right, The Rocketeer is abysmally low. Like a 49 or something, or maybe even lower. I'll go with 49.
Howie does it again and guesses right on the number for a movie. Starship Troopers is a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. Rocketeer is higher at a 63%.
I thought Rocketeer was really low. I don't know why I had that in my head. Like it was.
I knew that one was going to throw you for a loop of higher, lower, but you really hit Starship Trooper on the nose. I mean, I would think Starship Troopers would be higher. I'm a little 60%. That needs to be redone, folks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got one more.
Okay.
One more. I've got these are fucking classics. I've got 1997 badass concept of a movie. Men in Black, Burger King toys and all. You probably don't remember that because you were way old at that point. Versus 1999's bullet dodging, wall slow-mo running The Matrix. Men in Black from 97 versus Matrix from 1999. They're close.
Men in Black versus The Matrix.
The Matrix. Which one do you think is a bigger franchise?
I'm going to say The Matrix is higher, 97.
Oh,
and I'm going to say Men in Black is like a 94.
Men in Black is higher.
Damn.
At a 91%. The original Matrix from 1999 is an 86%.
That's bullshit. The Matrix should be like 100. The Matrix.
I was pretty shocked when I saw that was under 90. I was like, man, I fucking love Men in Black, but I don't think it did.
Yeah, the first one for sure.
I don't think it did for cinema what the Matrix did for cinema.
So, it didn't. No, you're right.
Yeah, that's our list. Okay, look at you. You got Starship Troopers right on the nose.
Yeah, I'm disappointed though. That's too bad.
I think you got The Burbs and Look Who's Talking right. And you got Little Shop of Horrors right. So you got 2 out of 4, 5. 2 out of 5. Crushed it.
Weak.
Fun movies. Those are fun ones to talk about.
Good list. I like that. That was good. That was good stuff. Yeah, that brings us towards the end of the episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Make sure you click that bell so you get notifications on when new episodes come out, which is on Wednesdays. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on one of many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're back next week for episode number 67 of the Movie Dads Podcast. Big premiere, movie of the week. Kyle's been waiting for months. Gladiator 2.
Get your swords and shields, boys.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good one. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to watch the original at some point in the next day or two to get hyped up and ready for Thursday night. Gladiator 2.
Before you watch the Gladiator 1, there is such a cool clip of Russell Crowe talking about the very first scene he shoots on, where him and Ridley are talking about. He's basically like, all right, he's like saying, like, this is how I knew me and the director were gonna fucking crush this movie.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, so you're watching over your army. You're about to have a war. A lot of your men are about to die. As you're contemplating this, a bird flies in. It catches your attention, completely takes you away from the battlefield. You're watching this bird, and then as it flies away, you watch it fly away, but then your attention comes back to the battlefield. And he's like, so I do it. I paint, in Russell Crowe's words, I paint little strokes of color in how I do this. And then he's like, we filmed that the first try, and then Ridley Scott walks up and goes, we're gonna get along fucking great, mate. We're gonna make a lot of money.
That's awesome.
So it was just a cool little clip about that movie. So anyways,
right. Gladiator 2. We're back next week. See you then. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.